Okay guys, I thought I would just run through some of the modifications I've made on the bike. I'm gonna be starting to convert it back over to a sort of a street setup starting tomorrow, getting ready for my tour. So this is the most sort of dirt oriented the bike has ever been. When I bought it, it was pretty much in a street setup, and I've been sort of slowly gravitating it towards the dirt. So the first mod that I made on the bike, I think, was the seat. I noticed right away that the seat wasn't very comfortable, and just the shape of it was, it kind of angles you in towards the tank, which is not very comfortable. This is a Seat Concepts cover. I'm sure you guys have heard about it. This is the carbon cover, and it was really good value. And the really nice thing about this is they were able to blow the foam to my weight, because I'm kind of light. I'm only like 145. I think the standard foam is like 165 and up. So I got a custom foam, and the other nice thing is that I was able to get the Dakar height, the Dakar foam for it, rather than the standard GS, and that's about an extra 1.5 inches in the middle here, which worked out best for me because I'm kind of long-legged and I was a little bit cramped on the bike, so that gets me up a little higher. So that was a really nice mod. The other thing I did was I put on a shorter windscreen. I was getting a lot of turbulence at my helmet. This is from National Cycle. It's the Z-Tech, is that what it's called? V-Stream Z-Technic. And the nice thing I like about these is that they're polycarbonate, so they're really strong. You can see this one's cracked a little bit, but as opposed to acrylic, first time you go over, it's gonna crack. The 12-inch height means that generally my helmet is up in clean air. When I got the bike, I had the 19-inch screen on, and I was getting turbulence like right at my helmet. So I lowered that a little bit, and that's been a nice change, although I'll be putting the 19.1 back on for the tour, but I'm going to try it with a wind deflector, so we'll see how that goes. Since I'm here, I'll just mention this headlight guard. I got that. It's from a company in Poland called Holland, and it's pretty much a mock-off of the Touratech light. The Touratech headlight guard. What else? Suspension. Suspension was a big modification. Starting with the front, I put the Rycor valves in here. I know some guys like the Race Tech, and I just thought I would try the Rycor because it's a little easier to install. Same idea. You don't have to drill out any of the damping rods, and they've been a nice mod. I'm still kind of playing around a little bit with oil height and viscosity to get the right setup, but it certainly firmed up the front end a little bit. And then the big upgrade was last year with the rear shock, because I had about 90,000 kilometers on the rear shock, and as you know, for the GS it's not serviceable. There is a local company here in Quebec, Stadium Suspensions. They do a lot of dirt suspensions for ATVs and dirt bikes, and they could have tapped a valve and repressurized it, but by the time you factor in that and the service, and then I had to get a new spring because it was a little bit undersprung, that would have been pretty close to the cost of a whole new shock. So that's what I went with, kind of their middle of the line one, which has this remote reservoir, which is nice. So I have adjustment, compression, and rebound. And because the frame is the same as the Dakar frame, there is a little cradle here for it, and that was a really nice upgrade. So that's the suspension. I added some moose pedals here for off-roading, so I get a little bit better grip. And I changed the height of the rear lever using this little gizmo here. It's by Touratech. You can adjust the height of the rear pedal. Chris Birch talks about that in his Say No to Slow video series. He has a whole video on bike setup, and he talks about the importance of getting that rear height for when you're standing. There's a little guard there I got from somebody named Kildala. off of the 650 forum blog. That's for the rear brake reservoir, and then also the center stand comes from, sorry, the center stand guard comes from him, Kildala, K-I-L-D-A-L-A, I believe. And while we're down here, we can talk a little bit about this this guard here. I had the OEM BMW cage and skid plate on there for a number of years, and it worked well. It saved the engine a lot of hits. The only thing is that you do lose a fair bit of clearance with that setup. You're losing about an inch, and this one, well, it gained me about an inch and a half. So that's important. This bike doesn't have the best clearance for off-roading. When you get into the big rocks, you're easily bashing the hell out of that. So this Happy Trails skid plate is really, really beefy. I mean, the welds on it are amazing, and that's been a really good upgrade, and it's not terribly expensive. It's nice that they've got the hole cut for when you do your oil change, so that makes things pretty easy. These guards here, radiator guards, also by Holland, that Polish company. Similar to the Touratech ones, but the Touratech ones just have the single mounting point at the front. These ones also mount back here on the frame. And then they mount in a different spot on the other side, but both have the double mounting point, which makes them really strong. And I mean, these have taken a beating, an absolute beating, and they've held up really well. What else? On the front of the bike, I can talk a little bit about the lighting. So one of the first things I did was I added the Cyclops lamp to this headlight, because the headlight is pretty piss poor. So that was a really nice upgrade. That's the LED with the little built-in fan. Then I added these are also Cyclops. I was so pleased with that product that I stayed with Cyclops for. These are the long range lights. You can see that they've taken a real beating. They've come, like, the bike has come down on them a lot, and you can see that the mount, which is actually the Denali mount, has really taken a beating. So yeah, one of the things I got to do next week is take all this off and straighten that mount. You can see they're all kind of cockeyed, but that just gives you an indication of the forces involved and what they've taken, and they held up. Nice thing about these is that you can get the scheme controller, so you can program them, and I've got them set, I think, at about 30% for daytime running lights. And then when I flick on the high beam, man, it's great. It lights up the road really well. This one is the Spot, which has the 10% angle, which is pointing down the road, and this one is 20% angle, so it's a little bit wider, and it lights the side of the road so you can see anything coming out from the side. And that's a really nice setup, and I think they advertise it as like 885 feet or something down the road. More than I'll ever need, but it is nice. I was just thinking of, you know, being out in the middle of nowhere with no street light or any other kind of light except maybe the moon, and you really want as much lighting as you can get. So that's been a good upgrade. And then the other little lighting change that I made is at the back. I had so many rear taillight bulbs burn out on this bike. I don't know why, but and you don't know, right? Because it's not something that you normally see when you're riding. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to put an LED in there. And that's one of the nice things about this bike, is that there's no CAN bus system, so you can just swap in an LED bulb and it's not going to mess up your circuitry. I chose the Philips bulb. It's a little bit more than just the real cheapo ones out of China, although Philips is probably made in China too, but the real cheap ones you can get on eBay, they don't have enough differentiation between the daytime running light and when you put on your brake. This one, the Philips, it does do that. It really illuminates when you put on your brake. And I think I even got the red LED, so it's extra red, extra bright. What else have I done? Oh, I changed these flashers. They look OEM, but they're the flexible stock, which is nice because, yeah, whenever the bike goes over, they take a beating. The handguards, I've tried about 2 or 3 different kinds of handguards on this bike. I've tried a Chirby, I've tried, is it Lysa or Lycra? I've tried Bark Busters, and the problem is that with this Kyoko throttle lock, I can't get anything to fit, and there's just a lot going on these rather small handlebars. So the OEM ones, you know what, even though they're plastic, they're custom designed, they fit really nicely. You can see they just fit nicely in here. Over the, they even provide a little bit of protection for that front brake reservoir. And I've gone down on this, and the handguard's just been like folded up, and it just snaps back into place. So it doesn't offer protection for your hands or your levers, but you know what? Look, I've got the foldable levers here. Now this is an item that I got cheapo off of eBay. I don't know, it wasn't much at all. I looked at the other levers, you know, $90 for levers. I couldn't do it. These were something ridiculous, like $15.99 or something. And they've saved me a lot of trouble too, because I've looked at the bike when it's gone over on a rock or something, and I've seen this folded way up like this. So that just prevents you from breaking any levers. Yeah, the Kyoko throttle lock is nice. When you're doing those long hauls, you can set that. I went with the double take double take mirrors. I've tried a couple of different mirrors on there. The Touratech ones that have a kind of a thinner stock, I tried those. That didn't work. One time I dumped the bike in wet grass, and then when I lifted it, the mirror part stayed behind, and I could not get the socket, get the ball back into the socket without damaging some of the socket. These aesthetically don't look that great, but you know what? They're so practical, so functional. I just decided I'm gonna bite the bullet and put those on, and that I don't have any regrets. They've been solid. They don't vibrate. You can adjust them like this way. You can adjust this. It has a lot of adjustability, so that's been a really nice upgrade. What else did I do? So also, speaking of Kildala, that's his rack as well. I like it because you can have still access to the compartment while I'm here. So this takes my, you know, I have a big wet dry duffel bag that goes up there, or sometimes if I'm going a little bit more efficiently, I have a smaller Moscow bag that goes up there, but it's a solid platform because before I had it, I was mounting things directly on here, and I lost one of these guys. Actually, I think I lost this one here. This is actually a black coat hanger that I've cut up and filed and modified and glued in there. The only other thing I would want to put some of the invisibles on the bike. So down here, I've got the Golan, not to be confused with Holden, Golan mini fuel filter. Because one of the issues with this bike is you've got the combo filter regulator all in one unit, which you're supposed to change every 40,000 kilometers, and it's expensive because it's combined with the regulator. So I put this in. It's a pre-filter, and I can clean it from time to time, and I've never had any problems with the other filter, with the bike having any issues with dirty fuel. And then the battery, let me just put that back. The battery, I got away from the wet cell. They didn't work very well at all on this bike because the battery sits right here, right next to the oil tank, which can get quite hot. I had cells boiling dry on me, and I've had lots of issues with the bike. On tour, it seems to be always on tour, you know, suddenly starts surging and stalling, and the circuitry starts doing weird stuff. The tachometer jumps up to like twice what you're actually revving at, and it's always the battery. So I've switched to lithium batteries. I tried a Shirai battery, and that was great. I noticed right away just how much more powerful it was, and of course you don't have to worry about the battery draining over the winter. The only issue with just the Shirai is that if you ever leave anything on that drains the battery's finished, and that happened to me by accident. When I was accessing the shock, I had the subframe lifted, or the frame, the rear suspension lifted on the subframe, and somehow I accidentally turned on. I had this before. I had risers on, and I had a different switch for my hazards, and it got accidentally turned on and it drained the battery. So I've gone with the anti-gravity battery, which has what's it called? It's like a fail-safe technology where if you drain the battery, well, what happens is it shuts down the battery when it reaches a certain voltage, and then you can just press a button and it saves enough energy to give you a start. Yeah, so that's about it. Maybe the only other thing would just be this lever. If you're doing any off-roading, you will go over on your lever. This is the Moose lever, so it folds in, so that's kind of nice to have that. And then of course the tires, these are Kenda Big Blocks. Nice big knobby tire. It's a 60/40, and I love those. I've tried also the K60 Scouts. They're pretty good too, but this is about as aggressive as I've had on it, and I've been pretty happy with them. So I'll be switching some stuff over next week, and I'll do another short one when the bike's all set up for my street tour.